Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are now up and running. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but we are here now. So we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to pass this over to our amazing presenter, and let's get talking about Gemini and AI tools.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We are excited to jump in and talk about Gemini and AI tools. My name is Mary Ellen West. I am joining you from the other coast outside of Atlanta, Georgia, where I work at one of the largest school districts. And one of the many hats that I get to wear is that my team runs Google Workspace for our district. So we manage about 200,000 accounts and that many devices as well. And so we have been jumping in a whole lot with AI, and we are excited to share that love and to talk with you guys today about our experience, as well as what the possibilities are and what Google is offering as far as Gen AI. So today we're going to hit kind of four main areas. We won't spend the same amount of time on all four, so I would love to hear from you what you're really hoping to get out of today. The four areas that we're ready to jump in and dive into, one is enabling and disabling those different applications and what those user settings are and how to manage that from the admin console. And then second, we are going to jump in on Notebook LM and use cases and how Notebook LM can be utilized in a school district. Then we'll move on to the Gemini app and how that can elevate teaching and learning. And then finally, we'll kind of talk about next steps. Like, where do we go from here? What resources are available? How do we jump in and have conversations with our staff about generative AI and about these tools? So that's kind of the plan for our afternoon. Again, I would love to hear from any of you what you're really hoping to get out of today. So feel free to throw those things into the chat, and we'll make sure that we can focus on exactly what it is that you guys need. All right. And Katie, I will need you to help me with that as well. I don't think I can jump in on the full chat.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep you posted as anything comes up.
Perfect. Okay, so let's jump in. So enabling and disabling the Gemini app and also Notebook LM. I'm not sure what you currently have. Whether or not you have these turned on or off, that would be great information to have. So I'd love for you to throw into the chat whether you have these enabled or disabled. We're going to talk about exactly how to do that, but also about how to configure that for different users and other settings that are available there as well. So again, we're jumping in specifically. We'll throw in a little bit of other things, but specifically today with Gemini for Education in that standalone app and Notebook LM. And we'll talk more about what each can do. But when we talk about configuration, we're going to look at these specifically. Okay. So Gemini with the standalone app, that is more like your typical generative AI chatbot, but it has some extra features and functions that are really exciting. Notebook LM is different than any other AI tool that I know because it actually is not just going out and pulling from all of these different resources. This allows you to determine what's in your notebook. What are the sources that the tool is pulling from in order to give you answers? So it's really unique in that way. Okay, so let's look at how we turn these on or off. This screenshot, both screenshots are directly from the admin console. So and this has moved, okay? So this has moved a couple of times. So making sure that you're familiar with where things are now is a really good idea. On the left-hand side from the admin console, you can open up generative AI. And from there, you'll see the Gemini app, Gemini for Workspace, Notebook LM, and Gemini Reports. Okay. So to turn one of those on or off, the Gemini app and Notebook LM, you click in that left-hand side panel on the application. So then that opens like it is here in the second screenshot. You'll want to expand for Gemini where it says service status, and that's where you have on or off. Keep in mind that you can set that differently for different organizational units, and also for groups if you have security groups set up. So the best practice is to be the most restrictive at the root and then override or allow things at OUs or sub OUs underneath. So for example, in my district currently, at the root, we actually have Gemini turned off, and then we have overridden that for it to be on at the staff OU, and currently also at the student OU that is just for our high school students. So keep in mind that Gemini and Notebook LM now are available for users K-12, and the default in an admin console, if you have not already set something, the default is that they're just on. So you want to make sure that you customize that and set it the way that you see fit for your users. You have to consider, what is the experience level? What training has taken place? What policies or guidance have we put into place? And make informed decisions for your users, and all along knowing that it can change at any time, right? So for example, we plan to turn the Gemini app on for middle and elementary students, but we know that we're not there yet. So currently it is off for those levels of students, but on for our high school students and for our staff. Now, for Notebook LM, I am going to be completely honest. I think Notebook LM is so powerful, and it has so many powerful things for students. However, currently, the use of Notebook LM does not go into Vault. There is not an investigation. There is not even a usage report for Notebook LM. For that reason, we do not, in my district, have Notebook LM turned on for students yet. We are waiting to have more visibility from the admin console and from Vault into what's happening in Notebook LM before we enable that for students. Okay, so you can do all of this by OU and also by groups if you have security groups set up, if you're familiar with security groups. Now, in addition to just enabling or disabling these, also recognize that there are some additional settings. So specifically for Gemini, there are 4 additional settings that I think are at least worth having a discussion and making that informed decision for what you want to do. So I have 4 settings set here, and then in the screenshots, it's kind of they're kind of aligned, right? The screenshot for the area, there's a number there, it aligns with the number here on the left-hand side. The first 3 are within the section for Gemini app, the same place that you turn Gemini on or off for all users or a specific OU. The first one is for gems sharing. If you're not familiar with gems, creating a gem is creating kind of a custom agent or chat bot within the Gemini app. So you're able to customize and tell the gem kind of all of the background information, the personality, etc. So if you find yourself using a generative AI tool and saying the same contextual things over and over again, like you are an administrator for a school district that is focused on innovation and transformation, and you are helping school leaders make decisions, right? So if you give that context over and over again, then creating a gem is a good idea because you would not have to repeat yourself over and over again. pretty newly, in fact, I believe it was last week, gyms became shareable. So that means I can create a gym for the principals in my district that they can utilize instead of them having to create that custom gym themselves, even though I've already done it too. So this first setting is turning on or off the ability for users to share their gyms with other people from the Gemini app. Now, this is based on two things, this setting, but also your Drive and Docs settings for sharing also contribute to the experience here. In other words, if you have your Drive and Docs share settings restricted to being internal only, if people can't share externally, then that would also apply here. So people would not be able to share a gym externally, only internally. So just know that those share settings in Drive and Docs also have an impact. But this specifically is just to be able to share those directly from the Gemini app, right? So again, remember, gyms are that custom chatbot. It's creating a custom kind of personality, right, that you're interacting with instead of just Gemini as a whole. The second setting is the conversation history. So the second section here, Gemini conversation history. Again, I'm within the Gemini app settings. This allows you as the administrator to determine whether or not chats with Gemini are saved and how long they're saved for. So as an example, we do have ours set to be saved, right? So that conversation history is saved. And we have the retention policy set for the absolute max, which is 36 months. What that means is that users have a whole lot of old chats if they're using Gemini quite a bit, but they're not losing those chats. They can do a search within them and find something from previous interactions. And our students can't just like create a chat and ask something and then delete it and think nobody's ever going to know, right? And then this top setting within the Gemini app settings here on this screen is turning on or off the ability for Gemini to reference your workspace and other Google apps. In other words, from inside of Gemini, can people ask a question and have Gemini look at their calendar or look at, you know, a specific file or all of the files in their Google Drive as Gemini is answering or interacting in that conversation. Okay. And then the last one down here is actually in a different place. So it's not under Gemini app. It's actually under Gemini for Workspace. Now, if you're like me, you do not have the extra funds to pay for everyone to have those beautiful Gemini Pro licenses. And so we are using that free version of the Gemini app, right? That the standalone free version, not Gemini Pro. So just by default, I probably would not have thought to even go into this Gemini and Workspace apps category for settings because they can't pull up a side panel in Docs, etc. However, here, the one setting that I know I want to have turned on is feature access in Classroom. I want my teachers to be able to utilize Gemini tools inside of Google Classroom. So that is turned on. And that does show up in this Gemini and Workspace apps section, even though it does not have an extra cost associated with it. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's jump in and talk about Notebook LM. If you are not familiar with Notebook LM, it is absolutely incredible. To get started, go to notebooklm.google.com, and you want to make sure that you're signed into your district Google account, your school Google account, because then you know that you have that data protection built in. Okay. Notebook LM is incredible. So you upload your sources. You can chat with those sources. You can get information grounded in those sources as opposed to just the whole web. And then what probably gets the most attention are the extra studio features that are on the right-hand side, where you can create audio overviews, study guides, FAQs. Now there is a video overview. There are flashcards. It's incredible. So I'm actually going to switch over to Notebook LM and just kind of jump in here. Thinking about you in your current role, right? I just want to show some examples of things that we have done. I know you guys know your stuff. You can figure out how to create a notebook, right? You click on Create New, and you add your resources, and you go from there, right? So I know that you guys can figure that out. But what I really want to jump in on are some of the use cases. I find that by talking through what others are doing, it sparks ideas in my mind. And so I want you to be able to do that and have that as well. So one example that our administrators have just gone wild over, this is our student conduct code. So because our conduct code is on our website, and our website is public, because when you add resources, you can add up to 50. You have the option to add from Google, from your Google Drive, from YouTube and websites, and by pasting text in. You can also upload specific kinds of files. One thing that I find is important to note is that when you select website, that website has to be public. It has to be accessible by anyone. So in this case, that works out because all of our rules and our code of conduct, this is all public on our website. So we created this so that administrators can handle a discipline issue on the fly. So all of these resources are checked off. This middle section is actually where I can interact with the notebook. So I can ask a question, and it gives me, sample questions here. It's kind of suggesting based on these resources what I might want to know. But I'm just going to give an example of a student was caught vaping in the school bathroom. What rules did they break, and what might the consequences be? Okay. So what I love, it does take just a minute because it's actually synthesizing from these specific resources. So I'm not pulling from the web, like what do all, school districts do for, this particular thing. It's actually pulling specifically from my resources, right? So it shows me which rules were violated. Let me kind of zoom in. And it digs into what those specific rules are. And then also we'll get into the disciplinary context because I asked it that, right? And the consequences are here on this left or on this right-hand side as well. You'll even see where there are numbers. This is where the source is being referenced. So if I click on that number, it's actually going to pull that source up here on the left-hand side, so that I can see exactly where that part of the answer came from, right? So this is one use case. Like there are all of these different things that users are having to constantly synthesize, and I want people to be able to get quick, easy answers, and so they can just ask questions of that notebook. Another example that has been helpful for me is that I put all of our calendars for our district into a notebook. And this allows me to see in just on the fly, right? When are different people in the office or at their schools, because we have people with all these different calendars. When are things happening for students? And so again, I can ask questions like, what would be a great day to offer professional development? But I'm also, with this notebook, starting to use some of these items on the right-hand side. So for example, here, I have a mind map that was automatically created from the resources. So I can click into that and, hey, what do I really want to focus in on? You know what? I'm thinking about test dates. So I can click here, right? What grade level? 3rd through 5th grade, right? And then if there's a specific test, right? So here we go. This is really what I need is I'm thinking about that specific assessment. And so I was able to see all of this. This is also that mind map I can download as well to provide to people. But now it's going to pull from all of these different resources, but give me the information I need about that specific test. Right?
We did have a question. I think that is just a little bit off of Notebook LM, but I wanted to mention it
Sure.
because it came up, and they're asking, I believe in the admin console side, is there a setting for Gemini CLI, which is a part of the Google Cloud Shell?
I have not seen a setting for that.
All right, awesome. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. So other items that are here in the studio, we just saw the mind map, but there are also reports. So you can click into this and, create a custom report. It'll give you a briefing doc, a study guide, a blog post, and I actually love how it's loading suggestions. So based on what's in the notebook, it will actually make some suggestions for other things that you might want to create as far as a report with those specific resources. So for example, a strategic plan. Of course, this is talking about key dates and activities. And so that makes sense because all of these have to do with those calendars, right? But there are all kinds of options in there. All right. Something else that a lot of our leaders are currently doing is creating notebooks specific to different content areas. So in this notebook, I have all of these resources for 5th grade science unit 1, right? All of these different resources that have been pulled together all about, 5th grade science, just unit 1. So this could be shared with all of the teachers who teach 5th grade science, and then they would be able to utilize this. Again, they can ask questions, but some of these other items in the studio are also incredibly helpful. Brand new are flashcards and quiz. This is really amazing. So you click to generate, and the little pencil allows you to customize. But as an example, here we go. So electricity flashcards is what was created. What are the 3 even smaller pieces that make up an atom? And you click to flip, right? And you can even ask for an explanation. And then you can go on to the next flashcard. So that one's brand new. A quiz is also incredibly helpful. So you can just build an interactive quiz right here. Here's an example. And so maybe full class or in a small group, even if students don't have access, as the teacher, I could lead a whole class or small group instruction going through these. And of course, it's going to say, oh, not quite. Hey, here's why it's incorrect. Actually, this was the right one, right? And then we could go on to the next one. So that's incredibly powerful as well. Oops. And then probably the 2 that get the most excitement and attention. So here I have created an audio overview. And so all you do right here with audio overview, you click to create. Now, also new. So it used to just be an audio overview, but now you can click on the pencil and you can customize even more of exactly what you want that to be about. So more has been built out here if you're already familiar with that. But that audio overview allows me to have basically a podcast, and it's playing right now, but I actually, the sound isn't coming through. So It's two hosts interacting and talking about the content of the notebook. It's incredibly engaging, and it's so powerful for multimodal learning, like multimodal learners who can't just, look at a bunch of documents or read things and automatically get it, because they're getting that chance to listen. And I love this if students have access to Notebook LM, but even if students don't have access, one thing that's great about the audio overview is that I can download it. So I can download this as an audio file, and then I can provide it to students in Google Classroom. And then without having access to Notebook LM, my students have the ability to listen to that. Video overview came out not all that long ago, but it synthesizes what's in your resources and creates a video about those resources. Again, it can be downloaded. You're going to have people talking, and you're going to have the visual of the video. It's really powerful as well. Oh, because I couldn't hear, and I didn't even think about this. I want to go back to the audio overview for just a minute. This button that says interactive, if you load audio overview as interactive, this is we won't be able to hear it, but it's going to start playing. And if you see, there's this blue button here for join. And if you click on that, the hosts are actually going to stop talking and welcome you. And then you can ask questions of those two hosts, and they will shift the focus and answer your questions. So imagine doing this, whole class, or again with a small group, even if the students don't have access to Notebook LM, where you can join and have students ask questions of the host. Incredibly, incredibly powerful. Okay. All right. Again, under reports, we kind of talked about there being different suggestions based on what all is in the notebook. I just want to point out for a study guide. Oh, and look, you can see the suggested formats here for this one are very different than what we had when we were looking at a calendar, right? But the study guide is very powerful. So if we create a study guide, this is not in a format that is just shareable, right? Or you can't just download it. But what you can do is just copy all of this and then take it over to Gemini. And in a minute, we're going to switch gears. And I'm going to show, one of the things I want to show you is how you can utilize this kind of study guide that you create in Notebook LM to create some interactive experiences for students using Gemini. Okay, so I want to check our time. I know we started late. But I want you to see you'll have access to these resources. We've got kind of the anatomy of Notebook LM and some more information in the slides specifically about Notebook LM. Kind of covers all of the things that we've talked about, and we definitely did the demo. Katie, were there any other questions, anything specific to Notebook LM before we jump into Gemini?
No other questions as of now.
Perfect. All right. So we'll jump in. We were going to take time to create our own notebooks, but I feel I'm a little worried about time. So we'll definitely have some time for playing later, and we'll just include Notebook LM in that playtime along with Gemini, I think. Okay. All right. So let's jump in on Gemini. Gemini is the standalone chatbot app, right? And so again, to get started, you just go to gemini.google.com. Again, if you're not signed in to your school account, you'll want to do that. There is a kind of box here at the bottom where you would enter your question or your prompt, and then you just click to submit that question. So at its most basic level, that's what you're doing with Gemini. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to gemini.google.com. I can see that I'm in my school account. And so I know that my data is protected, and I can just start typing here, right? And I can ask a question. I can, have a conversation. And I think that's one of the key points with generative AI is remembering that it's not just a question and an answer. It is an interactive back and forth, right? So I can continue the conversation. We've got some ideas that Gemini gives us here for some things that we could do. These are a whole lot of fun, but we're going to jump in on more, some of the more specific use cases and specific tools that are within Gemini. So again, we've got the anatomy of Gemini. So we see this is where we put our prompt and how you can start a new chat here from that left-hand panel. But I really want to get into some of the items in Gemini that are more unique from other generative AI chatbots. Okay. So we already talked a little bit about gems, but I want to just show you how that's done and kind of what that means. So here on the left-hand side, if I hover, then you can see my history, right? I told you guys our history stays and stays and stays. There's a whole lot there. But if I kind of scroll up, you'll see where it says gems. So again, creating a gem is kind of like a specific personality. So I'm going to age myself a little bit here. And I relate gems to Jem and the Holograms, which was my favorite cartoon. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I apologize. But Jem was a rock star. And so she had a really specific personality. And Jem was spelled differently with her. But I relate it in that way because if you go to a specific gem, it's a specific personality for what you're looking for, right? So I'm just going to click here on Explore Gems. And I want you to see that there are some pre-made gems from Google that are very powerful. And I can show more. You can see even more of those. And then here, I also can create my own. So again, I might, as a district administrator, want to create my own. And of course, I would name it, but then you can give specific instructions. So I'm going to say district admin for the name. And I'm just going to say, you are a district admin in a large school district and are responsible for Google and other technologies. Okay, now you can be as detailed here as you want. What I really love, though, is just clicking this use Gemini to rewrite my instructions because it's going to think of things that I would not have. I am not good at getting this detailed, but Gemini is. In other words, based on what I already put, it's going to come up with here's what the overall tone should be, right? Here's the purpose and goals, the behaviors and the rules, right? Greet the user with professionally and introduce yourself as the district admin for technology, right? So it's coming up with a lot more detail than what I would have thought of. And of course, I can customize and change this as much as I want to. I also can give this gem a knowledge base. So I might want to add files, upload files, or add from my drive. Maybe I want to add my job description, right? Maybe if I were creating one for a teacher, maybe I would add the standards for that subject area, that content area. So you can add files there for the knowledge to kind of customize the gem as well. When you're done, you're just going to click Save. I can say Start Chat. So I can just talk with this, right? And anytime I want to use this gem here on the left-hand side under gems, I can just click here. So if I just say new chat, right? Now I'm back to sort of the standard. But if I wanted to focus in on a specific gym, I would just click, and then I'm able to interact with that kind of specific personality, right? So what's really amazing now is that these can be shared. So this is what we were talking about earlier with that extra feature, that extra setting, determining whether or not users can share these. So if I create one for 6th grade math teachers where maybe I've added the standards, etc., I might want to share that with all of the 6th grade math teachers so that they could utilize it too. So I would do that from this sharing interface, which is going to look just like a Drive sharing interface. Okay, so custom gyms, that's one of the things we wanted to talk about with Gemini. There are, again, these that are already created by Google are so much fun. The storybook one, this is an experiment, but it has just like taken off. So if you click on the storybook one, you can give it an experience, right? And it will generate a story. So as an example, I created one about district generated Google Classrooms, right, for teachers. And I actually added a reference file that was our help guide for teachers accepting those classrooms. And it created a little storybook. It can even be listened to, but you can click to go through that storybook, right? So imagine how powerful this could be. For example, for, a teacher has students who are struggling with a specific concept, and she can give those instructions, and it will create a storybook for her students about whatever it is that they're struggling with. We just had someone retire in kind of one of my partner offices. And so they used this gym to create a storybook about way back to her first 3 months in the district office. And so that was a lot of fun. It was shown at her retirement celebration. So for gyms, you can create your own, but you also can explore those gyms that are offered by Google. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Katie, I see you popping in. Were there questions?
We don't have any questions, but I did just want to check in because this was right around our original ending time, and just wanted to check in. We can continue going if you'd like, or we can wrap up. Completely up to you if you want to continue sharing. I know you have a little bit more to share, but I wanted just to check in with you and our
Sure.
audience.
Yeah. I think we'll finish. We'll go maybe a little faster through these last couple of Gemini things, and then I'll show you some resources in the slides before we wrap up.
That sounds great. All right. And keep those questions coming. If you are with us, share those in the chat.
Perfect. Okay. So the other things that I wanted to show you are here inside of the chat interface. So that plus sign allows you to add files, right? So you can add from your drive or upload files if you're wanting Gemini to assist you with something that's in a file. You also can use, as long as the setting is turned on, you can use the @ symbol and have Google reference the other applications, right? The other applications. So you can have it reference your calendar, look for a time, etc. And then the real key here, the things I want you to see are under tools. So if you click on tools, there are 4 items. One is custom for creating images. It's really powerful. We've had some AAs recently creating posters using this feature. It has saved them so much time creating posters for events. Deep research will research for you in a matter of a couple of minutes. As an example, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and so I decided to ask Gemini to do some deep research for me with the new possibilities in research being done for treatment and potential cures. And you can see, literally, this took a couple of minutes, and everything that Gemini came up with, and if you look all the way at the bottom, all of the resources that are referenced, all of the resources that are used. I mean, it would have taken me years to do this research, right? So that is an incredible tool that is there under Tools, Deep Research. Guided learning is really powerful because you interact with it and it doesn't just answer you or give you something. It keeps you thinking and going. So it's really pulling you into a conversation that allows you to learn. I have my staff utilizing guided learning as part of their professional development goal. So whatever it is that they have decided they want to learn about this year, they are using guided learning as one of the ways that they are doing that learning. And then probably my most favorite is Canvas. So I told you that we were going to pull in something from Notebook LM. So from Notebook LM, I have this study guide, and I'm just going to copy everything from that study guide. And over here, I'm going to turn on Canvas, and then I'm going to say, create an interactive self-checking study guide using these questions and vocabulary. Have the vocab be drag and drop matching. Okay, so the key is to turn on Canvas. Canvas, so you know, can also create for you infographics. It can create documents that you can get started, you know, to help you get started with something, and then they're editable. And what's great is you can continue to ask Gemini to make updates right here. But my favorite is using it to code, right? So here's the code, and I'm not a coder. I would never be able to write this code on my own. But I can see in the preview that now we have this study guide that is self-checking, completely interactive, right? Drag and drop, right? Drag and drop activity for the vocab. I can check it. Oh, wow, I actually got all of those right. And so this is incredibly powerful. What's best about this to me is I can actually take all of this code and put it into a Google site or an HTML file and actually then create for students this interactive self-paced option. We've used this for on some of our sites for cybersecurity training for our students, for some learning about phishing campaigns for our students and our teachers. We have utilized this for creating some self-directed professional development for our teachers as well. So it can be incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Okay, so that was a really quick dive in, but through the slides that you'll have access to, you can see a little bit more information about all of those things. Take some time to kind of dive in and try these, and then know that there are also Gemini tools inside of Google Classroom. So if that is enabled and turned on in your district, definitely take some time to dig in on those. It's really powerful to create a rubric from there, etc. It makes things so much easier for your teachers. We'll actually talk about in more depth about that next week if you are planning to come to that session. Okay, now I know we are out of time. I just want to show you quickly when you're looking at your next steps and where do you go from here. It's really important to have conversations with your staff and conversations with other members of leadership. So there are some discussion questions here for you to consider and talk about as part of the leadership team, and then questions to consider with your staff. And then linked is kind of a facilitator's guide to really digging in on, you know, what might you need to do, what conversations need to happen, what kind of planning you might want to do. I also have included all kinds of resources here from my district So we actually have AI guidance for parents, for students, and for staff. And so I've linked that here for you, along with our AI learning framework, our board policy and procedure, our AI integration planning document that we kind of started from our learning continuum, and our student and staff AUPs as well. So feel free to utilize those resources. And then there are all kinds of resources that we've added from Google as well. These are quick resources, like little one-pagers. And then there are some further learning opportunities as well. So all of these things are available in the slides. We will, I can't put that, I can't get in the chat, so I can't put the link in there, but it will be made available. So I know I have to submit some things for the group, and then I believe that will be made available for the group as well. Yes, Katie, is that accurate?
Yep, we can absolutely do that. That's totally fine. And then once you're wrapped up, let me know. I have like 2 things I just want to share real quick with everyone before we end our session. All right, perfect. Let me share my screen real quick, everyone. Thanks for hanging in with us. I just wanted to kind of just wrap up and say that we are launching our AI Literacy Academy, and wanted to just let you know that this is a great resource full of practical strategies, how to use it responsibly and effectively for both teachers and students. So if that's something that you are interested in, please make sure you head on over to bit.ly/C3-AI-LIT, and you can join that course and get all of that amazing information. You can also share that link for others to join that course. We would love to have you join our AI Literacy Academy to kind of continue your learning around AI as well. With that being said, we really appreciate all of you joining us today. Thank you so much for being here. We do apologize for starting a little bit late, but thank you again. Thank you to our amazing presenter. This was a great session. I know I learned so much, and I absolutely love all of your ideas about utilizing these across multiple schools and a whole school. Those were some really great resources. So thank you all so much, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you. Bye, everyone.